Right, folks, we move on to our first test of this this head-to-head comparison series between the new generation Fendt 600 series, the 4-cylinder, versus the outgoing Gen 6 700 series, the 6-cylinder. So the first test, like I mentioned before in the intro, we're going to kick off with a very simple dyno test to find out what's under these bonnets and what they are capable of. And to do that, we are joined by our friends from Avon Tuning HD, and in fact we've got the main man, we've got Mr. Gareth Jones with us. So Gareth, today, like I say, simple dyno test, but what can we achieve from today? What can we find out between these two tractors?
Well, of course, dyno test, we'll be able to see power and torque at the shaft.
Yep.
No doubt about that. But we'll also be able to look at the curves. And with our software, we can overlay both curves from both tractors over the top of each other, which would be really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Because everybody talks about peak power, peak torque, but in reality, there's a lot going on in other parts of the graph.
Exactly. It's the peak bit isn't the bit you always use.
No,
and
quite right.
Probably 89% of the time, it's the bit in between that you're using with tractors, because the duty cycles, the workload is so varied. So it'll be interesting to see what those, especially the torque curve is actually doing on both of these tractors. So it's going to be good. And what else can we find out as well?
We'll also be able to set the dyno up to do a test at the engine. So it will tell us the power and torque at the engine, which will be quite different to the power and torque at the shaft. And there's a big difference between torque at the shaft and torque at the engine because of gear ratios.
Exactly, it's huge. By the time it gets down to the shaft, it's usually multiplied. Almost, well, pretty much in most cases, it's by a factor of 2, if not more.
Correct.
Which is why we get these massive torque figures, but that's not actually what's happening at the engine, is it?
Exactly. What I think will be interesting today is, so one's a 4-cylinder, one's a 6-cylinder, both similar sort of power.
That's right, yeah.
The tuner in me would say that the 4-cylinder has been tuned to a higher state from factory than the 6-cylinder.
Right.
That's what my gut feeling is telling me. Which would mean it should be running more boost pressure. It should be running, therefore, more charge air temperature. It should be running more fuel pressure.
Right.
That's my gut feeling.
That's your prediction.
So it's basically more highly strung from factory. If they're both similar power, one's 4-cylinder, one's 6-cylinder, one's 5 litre, one's 6.1. But we'll see.
We can see.